A very warm welcome to Tech Mining. In this video you will learn another use of drag and drop in your Oracle AJAX application by creating a Kanban board that will allow you to drag and drop cards between different system development lifecycle tasks. A Kanban board is an agile project management tool designed to help visualize work, limit work in progress, and maximize efficiency or flow. Kanban boards visually depict work at various stages of a process using cards to represent work items and columns to represent each stage of the process. We are not using any plugin for this module. Once again, you will be using HTML5 drag and drop features to accomplish the task that we used in a previous video titled Shopping Cart Drag and Drop. The images of humans used on the cards will be fetched from demo users database table that was created in a previous video titled Upload and Display Images. A link for that video is provided in the description below. In addition to the demo users table, you will use demo SDLC and demo task tables in this tutorial. A script for these tables can be downloaded using a link also provided in the description. The script creates these two tables along with some seed data. When you drag a card from one SDLC step and drop it on another, an AJAX callback process comes into action and immediately updates the shuffling in the demo task table. Each task is provided as a link. When you click a task, a modal page pops up that can be used to update task details. Similarly, the plus sign that appears under each SDLC pane can be used to create new tasks. Let's see how this module is created. Execute the downloaded script named tabledata.sql in SQL scripts under SQL Workshop to create the required tables. Note that you also need demo users table for this exercise, so make sure you have that table as well in your schema. Also make sure that the user ID column values in the demo task table maps to the user ID column values in the demo users table. That is, modify the user ID column values in the script file according to the user ID values in the demo users table. Next, create a blank page. In this tutorial, page 60 is created for this module. Create a new region on the page and set properties for the region. The dynamic PL SQL content defined here uses two cursors, C_SDLC and C_task, to fetch SDLC steps and project tasks along with users' information from relevant tables. The cursors select statements use multiple HTML tags and CSS classes to generate the page. The first loop in the begin block is used to display SDLC steps, 3 steps per row, in separate panes using an HTML table tags. The second loop displays task details in relevant SDLC pane. The hypertext procedures, HTTP, package generates HTML tags. It translates PL/SQL into HTML that is understood by a web browser. Another important thing used in this code is the Apex Web Service API, which enables you to integrate other systems with Application Express by allowing you to interact with web services in your application. The API contains procedures and functions to call both SOAP and RESTful style web services. It contains functions to parse the responses from web services and to encode or decode into SOAP-friendly base64 encoding. The blob2cla-base64 function of this API is used to convert a blob data type into a CLOB that is base64 encoded. In this example, the function gets the user image file from the demo users table and converts the blob into a CLOB that is base64 encoded. One important point to note here is that the http.print procedure takes varchar2 as an input parameter, which means that if you are going to store images bigger than 32K, you'll have to serve them in chunks. Save and run the page, which should look something like this. Enter CSS code in the inline text area to provide a better look. Add two text field items to the region to display dragged task ID and system development lifecycle ID where the dragged task will be dropped. Add a dynamic action to get and then set values for the task ID and SDLC ID text field items. Finally, add the AJAX callback process to submit card shuffling. The two SQL statements used in the drag and drop SQL Dynamic Content comprise a couple of links to call page 62 that can be used to create a new task as well as to modify details of an existing task. In order to keep this video small, in the upcoming steps I will just show you how that page displays the primary key information from the calling page, page 60. You can use this information to enhance this module and apply task addition and modification functionalities yourself. Click the root node of the page, and enter three functions in function and global variable declaration text area. Note the item's prefix that should match your page number. To make an element draggable, you have to set the draggable attribute of that element to true, and that is what you set in the SQL Dynamic Content earlier. Then, you specify what should happen when the element is dragged. In the current scenario, the onDragStart attribute calls a function named dragHandle that specifies what data is to be dragged. The dataTransfer.setData method sets the data type and the value of the dragged data. In this case, the data type is text and the value is the ID of the draggable element, that is, task ID denoted by t.id. The onDragOver event specifies where the dragged data can be dropped. By default, data and elements cannot be dropped in other elements. To allow a drop, you must prevent the default handling of the element. This is done by calling the event.preventDefault method for the onDragOver event. When the dragged data is dropped, a drop event occurs. In this example, the onDrop attribute calls a function dropHandle, which performs 3 tasks. 1. Call preventDefault to prevent the browser default handling of the data. Secondly, get the dragged data with the dataTransfer.getData method. This method will return any data that was set to the same type in the setData method. And finally, append the dragged element into the drop element. The appendChild method appends the dragged task at the bottom. We used $x Apex JavaScript API function to set values of 2 page items, p61_SDLC and p61_ID. These items and the corresponding page will be created shortly to evaluate values of task ID, the dragged element, and SDLC ID, which is the target element. Finally, we used Apex server process function, which calls a PL/SQL on-demand AJAX callback process named save reshuffling, and sets values for page items p60ID, which is the task ID, and p60SDLC no, which holds SDLC ID in session state using jQuery selector syntax. Create another blank page that can be used to add and modify tasks. Create a new static content region on this page. Set the title of this region to add and modify task, and then add 2 page items to show SDLC and task IDs. Add a button named Cancel to the region. Add a cancel dialog dynamic action. Save the page and test the Kanban board. That's it. Hope you enjoyed this video and learned some new techniques for your own Oracle APEX applications. Please subscribe to Tech Mining to get more videos like this. Thank you for watching.